This thing is amazing. I've been waiting for 20 years for someone to invent one of these, and it's finally here. It's by a brand called Rigour. We bought it off of a company called LocoSkates in China who make skate frames and stuff. But this can work for rollerblades, roller skates, skateboards, scooters, anything with a wheel with a bearing in it, basically. So let me tell you, we're a skate shop, and one of the biggest complaints we get from customers on skates is, well, there's two things. Wheels that don't spin well enough. When you spin them, they just kind of are slow instantly. And then wheels that have bearings inside that click from side to side, or you can hear a clicking in your wheels. These are two really common problems that we get, and both of those problems are caused by the same thing, and that thing is incompatibility of the spacer inside the wheel. So here's a spacer, here's a wheel, and you've got two things at play here. You've got the size, the length of the spacer, and then you've got the length of the little hole that the spacer sits in. And those two things have got to be perfectly compatible in order for this wheel to work properly. Because, sorry if you know this already, but just for the people that don't, you've got to put another bearing on top. And that has to be the perfect distance from the bearing on the other side of the wheel for it to spin perfectly. If the bearing space is too long, then this happens. As you can see, this bearing is popping out the top there. Look on the other side, it's flat. And on that side, bearing space is too long, it's pushing the bearing up. And if you try and pop that in, pop, you heard the click, it pops out the other side again. Same again. Oh, I'm going to try and pop it in. No, it's popping out the other side each time because there's a spacer in between it, pushing it out the other side each time. And that will cause, when you've got those on your skates or on your scooter or skateboard or whatever, that will cause a clicking when you put weight on one side and it clicks, clicks, clicks. So that's one issue. And the other issue is if that bearing spacer in the middle of the wheel is too short, then you get an effect where the bearings, instead of being like held apart perfectly at the perfect distance by the spacer, where the space is too short, the bearings are being pushed too much into the middle, into the seat of the wheel. They're not supported by the bearing spacer in the middle. And that effect is this. The wheel doesn't spin properly. This wheel here has got a bearing spacer that's too short in it, whereas this one has the perfect length spacer. So we're always trying to solve these issues, and up until now it's just been a game of like guessing, because one factory makes a wheel and another factory makes a bearing spacer, so you just don't have this perfect compatibility really ever if you're just mixing and matching. So you've got to try and figure out what bearing spacer fits what wheel. This is where the Spacermeter comes in. So here's what you do. You zero it off, zero it, and then you can pop it in a wheel, as long as the wheel's got a bearing in the other side. And this wheel here, which is a gold Frankie Morales wheel, has got quite a deep bearing seat, let's say. It's 10.55 millimeters. If you do it on the dead wheel, which is actually quite shallow, 10.19 millimeters. Now, because these are that is like less than half a millimeter difference, but in terms of manufacturing tolerances and trying to find the exact thing, these things matter, and this might be the difference between your wheel being slower or your wheel clicking. So now that we've got a tool to measure the center of your wheels like this, we can now more easily find a spacer. So in this case, look, dead, you've got a wheel size of, it slightly varies as you wiggle it, but about 10 point, what did we say, 10.16? Or at least, well, now it's saying 10.17, so let's just say that. Dead have got their own spacers. Should we see if they're compatible? There you go, 10.16, 10.17, spot on. I'm really impressed actually that Dead have done that. But most companies don't have that. So you measure another bearing spacer, that one's 10.19, but then look, this one I found earlier, 9.15. It's really short. So if you put that in the wheel, I expect the wheel wouldn't spin very easily. It would kind of get stuck. So we found kind of a solution to the slow spinning or clicking wheel problem, but you do have to have a pair of calipers to measure all your different spaces that you've got in your box at home. And you have to have this Rigour Spacermeter. Rigour, yeah, that's the brand. Spacermeter to measure your bearing seat. But yeah, this one's really for the geeks. But I love this. I love that this exists. We actually do sell these. They're £90 as well. So you've got to be pretty committed to your bearing size and your wheel size. But I know that there's a few people out there who are geeky enough to do this. The other thing that you can do, actually, instead of measuring every single bearing spacer, is some companies, including LocoSkates, sell a box of different size spacers that are all individually, they do a 10.15, a 10.2, a 10.25 size spacer. So you can just pick out the box which size is the correct one for your wheel. We don't have them in stock at the moment, or maybe by the time we watch this video, we will have, but they do exist and they will be in stock. Okay, that's it. Not sure if you're impressed as I am. Give us a comment. We're LocoSkates. We sell inline skates and roller skates. Subscribe and all that. See you in the next video. Bye.